Hi, this is Henk. Welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions. And today my guest is Bjorn Leesson. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's me.
Okay, awesome. All right, man. So let's hear about what you got going on.
Hey, just a writer. Uh, Writing a series called the Outside the Bar series. It's dark versus light, essentially the story is, but it's got a lot of twist in it. The protagonist is a Viking warrior named Mariel. She's not only is she a female warrior, she's also half Moor and half Norse, so she doesn't even look like your standard Viking. But what really sets her apart and what makes the story really interesting going through the 8 books it's going to be is she's not your typical warrior of light either. She's fighting the dark to stop its overrun of the living world, but she has darkness in her as well. And as you read through the series, you see that a lot of the major supporting characters also have darkness. So it's the lines are very blurred. It's not it's not like Superman good, Lex Luthor bad, and they fight. It's there's a lot of lines that are crossed and a lot of blurred divisions between the two. Uh, to me, that represents more what the world really is versus clearly defined lines. But it's very, very expansive story. It spans over 1,200 years, so it's not all in one setting. It's several settings, several places in the world, and lots of time frames, lots and lots of characters. Genres. It's several genres. It's fantasy fiction. It's historically based. There's a lot of mind bender type psychology involved. It's just a really expansive story that I hope everyone enjoys.
Are you going to basing it off of any existing Norse myths or like a set of beliefs or set of gods or terrain?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of the Norse mythology is mixed in. There's also a lot of Irish mythology because a lot of the characters are Irish in the later books. Um, yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I tried to pull in a little bit of everything. I've always loved history, so all the history I've ever read, I tried to pull bits of that, into the story. There's a few major historical events that got pulled into the story as well. I didn't necessarily stick to it 100%. Of course, I exercised a little creative license and changed some things to make it more compelling for my story. But yeah, it digs into a lot of different things.
Yeah, a lot of those old myths have great stories. Like I'm Norwegian, so I've read most of the Norwegian myths with the whole like frost giants and
Hmm.
Odin's all like half sons and constant like all the gods except for like this current itineration, like they sleep with everyone, with other goddesses, with priests, with Odin sleeps with frost giants. After you get Loki,
Oh yeah.
so do you mix in some of that, like some of those mythical characters or
Uh,
some of
a,
those mythical realms?
a little bit, a little bit. The other world, as I call it in the book, it's the other. You got the living world where we're at, and then you've got the other world, which is beyond that. And I leave it ambiguous on purpose because I like the reader to kind of draw their own conclusions. But it does leave lots of hints that a lot of the what we would consider mythological other worlds exist together. It's kind of a multiverse. They exist together on the other side. And I do pull in one character in book 3, the third book that's out, called Runes of Destiny, that it as one of the characters and this particular character speak, they're on the other side, and while they're speaking, it alludes to we should know who this person is. And at the end, you realize it's Odin. It's the character she's speaking to is Odin, but he has several names, so he goes by other names before it's revealed he's Odin. So I do pull him in. A lot of the characters are a lot of the mythological beings are brought up. Christ also is in there, so it tries to draw a little bit of everything. A little bit of all the mythologies we know of and the gods and things. It's like I say, it's expansive and it's pretty fun. Uh, I do bring uh, uh, Yoga Mander shows up in a way. It's more of a joke, but she refers the character is introduced into the age of trains, of steam trains in the 1800s. So she equates it to the world serpent because she's never seen anything like that before. So it just little fun things like that as well. Yeah, I
Well,
try to.
I know back in the day, like they made up a god for everything they didn't understand. So there's
Yep.
a god of fire, a god of water, a god of the air, a god of everything. And I know the way that like so a lot of the US audience is very religious. So Marvel was learning how to bring some of their stuff, like characters like Thor, into the US market without offending people's religious beliefs. So I know that what they tried to do is that they tried to make Odin and they tried to make Valhalla and the Rainbow Bridge and all that stuff. It's like another world. It's another dimension. They're basically aliens as opposed to like actual mythical creatures. You know, what was your approach?
I kind of, I like I say, I left it a little bit ambiguous so people could draw their own conclusions, but I do have them all side by side. Like there is, most mythologies out there have a grand creator. They have a grand architect, the top being, and I leave that in place. But I by renaming the god figure is called Key to Anar in this series, and it's kind of up to you as you read it which god it really is. You see what I'm saying? But it does draw in that there's room for all the gods. They're just not necessarily the creator god, and it
Well,
leaves
you
it.
know, there's an ongoing theory that like they're all different ways of looking at the same thing, because whether it's Allah or whether it's Jesus or whether it's Odin or whoever it is, it's like basically the same thing viewed through different lenses.
Right, right. Just I mean, look at the Middle Eastern gods or the like the old Greek gods, for example. You got Apollo and Zeus. They're essentially the same person,
Right.
but they got different names. They were from different eras, somewhat different eras, or from different sections of the Middle East. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There's
And a lot of
the
them have like the same myths, like flood myths or whatever. Like
mhm.
those are constant parts of the entire mythology.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The flood myth. I mean, every culture in the whole world, not just where Judeo-Christian origins. I'm talking about the whole world. Everyone has a flood myth. So
Right.
there's got to be something to it, right? But and
Well,
then it's
if you listen to my theories, have you ever read anything by Graham Hancock?
I have not. No.
So I highly recommend him. But he basically says we're a species with amnesia. So he says we're actually a species that like human beings developed as like a self-aware species like around 500,000 years ago. And then a giant meteor would come and crash into like the ocean. There'd be tidal waves. So the most advanced portions of society are always on the coast. So they all died. The most primitive portions are in the center of continents, and those are the ones that survive.
Right.
So, like almost every religion, whether it's like the Aztecs, whether it's the Mayans, whether whoever, they have like legends of these, people that look nothing like them coming and bringing them advanced technology. In fact, that's
Right.
what the Indians first thought the Italians were when Columbus came over.
Oh yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, well, our religion predicts these people come, and then of course that's not what happened. But still, I'm saying, they had this legend. So, like what Graham Hancock says is like maybe those were some of the survivors of like a worldwide apocalypse that brought in advanced technology to like more primitive people.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean,
Which
it
would
may even
explain the flood myth, like giant tidal waves. And the thing is, like, if your whole world, you have no social media, if your whole world was at one coastal town and it was wiped out, to you, that's a worldwide flood.
yeah, yeah, there's theories that it wasn't necessarily the entire world flooded. It's just everything they knew flooded at different times. So
Your world flooded, not
right,
the
right,
entire
yeah,
world.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it may even be the same gentleman you're talking about. I know I read somewhere that some people believe human society has risen and fallen dozens of times. So
Right.
we've been here before, and like you said, something happened, meteor, whatever it was, something happened, wiped them out, and we had to start over from scratch with the people that didn't have the technology, just like you just said. So there, yeah, I mean, it's a very viable, to me, it's a very plausible explanation.
Yeah, he wrote just last note on Graham Hancock because this whole thing's about you, not about him. But
You know?
he has a series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse, which I'd recommend checking out. He like talks about that stuff and like how basically there are ancient ruins that are left, and then a new society builds on top of those ruins. And actually, the more advanced, foundation work is more well developed than what's on top of it, and which actually kind of doesn't make sense historically if it was one continuous lineage. Because usually
Right.
people get more like advanced as they go along. They don't, get less advanced unless they built on something that was more advanced.
Well, I mean, we have historical precedents of that. The water pump, for example, the Romans had the water pump. It was a screw device that moved water uphill.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
got that technology got lost after the Roman Empire fell. So for 500 years, we didn't have the water pump, but we reinvented it. So yeah, I mean, what you're saying is
Well, there's some
absolutely, it's
stuff we
already
haven't
been proven.
reinvented, like
Yeah.
Greek fire.
Hmm.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Apparently they had this fire they could burn on top of water, and nobody knows what happened to it.
Yeah. Even now, we still haven't recreated. We've created something close, but it's not the same thing. But
Right.
yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very plausible. Absolutely.
So
There's
let's get
all
back to
kind
your
of stuff
stuff.
we've never seen that we
Sure.
have seen.
So let's get back to your stuff, though. Is it a little bit more like mystical, like a little bit fantasy, a little bit sci-fi? Like, how would you characterize it?
I think the best categorization I've heard so far was historical fiction fantasy. So it's if you want to take it as a percentage,
Kind of like
uh,
based off
80,
some historical work, but
yeah,
also developing your own style on top of that.
yeah. I sprinkled in some supernatural and paranormal elements, which I love. I mean, it's really a combination of all my interests, but history. Historical, we'll call it realistic setting. The historical realistic setting is probably 80% of the story, but the other 20 is the fantastic part of it. The paranormal and the mystical bits, the other side of the veil, this power that Mariel has within her that can either completely destroy or heal, depending on how she uses it. And that's kind of the crux of the story. Is she spends the first three books discovering how to even control it. It when she does unleash it in battle, because she's a Viking originally, so she's in raids and things like this, and it overtakes her, and she can't even determine between foe and friend, so she's just wiping people out. It's this whole development she has to go through to be able to utilize it correctly.
As far as the historical elements, did you do a bit of research on like certain terrains and certain whatever the social politics of the area and the custom and the culture were?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The fifth book, which was the last one we released a couple months ago, is set in Saxon England. So we're looking at still the Viking Age, but it's what we call Great Britain now. And she's the leader of a settlement there, a Norse settlement, and she has to navigate the politics of the inhabitants, which are the Saxons. So I had to do some little poking around and some research on that. A little bit of it, I took some artistic license and just did my own thing, but most of it is based on research. Yeah. So yeah, I tried to keep it as realistic as possible, but still with the fantastic element to it.
Oh, it's great to hear. Yeah, there are some people that they say, "I never do research." I'm like, okay, I'll never read your book. Yeah,
Right, right. Yeah, because then it becomes pure fantasy. You can't call it
yeah,
based
yeah.
on, yeah, yep.
And even some of the strongest stuff, like some of the most popular stuff, like Star Wars, like he George Lucas based that off on a bunch of myths and a bunch of things that already
Oh yeah.
existed. So he kind of had a structure behind it. I think that really helped.
Yeah, well, you got to make it relatable to the reader too. I mean, if you do a completely fantasy setting that's only in your mind, you're going to have to find only the people that think just like you
Right.
for it to make sense. But if you make it uh familiar enough that everyone knows what you're talking about without having to crawl inside your brain to see it, then you're going to have a better chance of having a larger fan base. So that, I mean, it's if that's what you're going for. If you're writing books and you're trying to sell them, of course you want to appeal to people that as a broad range as you can anyway, and still stay true to your work. And that's it. Luckily, I'm more grounded in reality, so it worked out for me. I didn't have to go way out in left field. I just sprinkled in some left field into the reality.
Well,
It,
one thing that also bothers me, and always bothered me as a kid, like maybe I'm a little CD, but it was like they'll talk about like these fantastical worlds or spaceships or whatever. They don't describe anything. So it's like not only, you should, I think you should leave some space so people can like make up their own version of their
yeah,
head, but you need something to kick it off. If there's nothing, you're like, I don't even know where to start.
yeah, absolutely. I'm very descriptive in mine. Some have claimed it's too much detail, but I don't agree because I want you to see what I'm seeing. So I've got to
Right.
be
Of course.
descriptive,
Yeah.
and I want it to be immersive. I want it to be a deep, rich setting. So I'm going to describe everything, not every single thing, but I'm going to describe as much as I can to give you the mental picture that I have while I'm writing it. And uh, I feel like I did that with all 8 books. Well, all of them that have been released, plus the ones that are coming. But yeah, I agree 100%. I think that anybody that tells a storyteller should set up the story, and that's how you do it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you did. You probably did. It sounded like you, but like I try to put myself in the mind and head of that character. So every time something's happening, I'm like, what would I see? What would I
Oh,
do?
oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was the greatest fun for me was other than describing the settings was the character development. I wanted there's dozens of characters in my story. There's a, maybe a dozen main characters, but there's dozens of supporting characters that play important roles too. And I wanted every one of them to be unique, just like real life. You go out and meet 20 people, you're not going to meet 20 clones. You're going to meet 20 different
Right.
people. Same thing in a story. So I give them little quirks. I make them have speech, very different speech patterns. Some of them mix foreign words into their English words. I mean, it's all kind of ways to accomplish that. Aside from the psychological parts, where this person is very stoic, this person's very outgoing. There's lots of ways to do it, and I tried to grab everyone I could think of, everyone I've ever met in my life, and take little bits of them, a little bit of myself, and put them into the characters to make them
Yeah,
unique.
I do that too. I appreciate that when other writers do that. Like they're like if I do something, I try to base it off of either me or somebody I know personally or somebody I've interacted with. So I'm like, how would they approach every situation?
Yep, exactly. And then it's even more fun when you take, say you take 20 people and break them apart into 50 pieces, and then you mix all those pieces together to make 20 new people. That's
Well,
really fun.
I found like I did one story about the trenches in World War I, and I was like one critique I got was like my characters weren't talking like people from World War I. I'm like, well, they're all dead. How would I find it? And what I was recommended is to look up like letters and writings from that era.
All
Um,
right.
how did you approach all this?
No, I tried to stay with the nuance of the age that I'm writing in. I did the same thing. I read read letters, looked at documentaries, even things like that. Uh, with the Norse setting, I mean, no one alive lived back then, obviously. So we're
That
going
we
on
know
what we,
of.
yeah, well, yeah, we're going on what we think we know about it. And I tried to stay true to everything I read about it, and the mythology, of course, hasn't changed. Well, to our knowledge, it hasn't changed. So I try to use that as the template for that era. And what we do know from archaeology about like the villages they had, things like that. So I did try to stay as true to it as I could to the era, but there is some modern nuance to it all because again, you're trying to appeal to a modern reader. I'm not trying to sell the series to Vikings because they're not around.
Right.
But yeah, so it's a hell of a balance. It's a pretty tight rope you got to walk depending on what you're trying to accomplish, and it could be very interesting along the way too.
So how did you approach detailing it? Was it like first person? Was it third person? Present tense, past tense? You know,
Third person present tense is the way I wrote it. Uh, as a general rule for high action type writings, you want to do, as I understand it, you want to do present tense because it keeps you with the action as though you're there watching it.
right.
Now, my first four books of the series are heavy, heavy action, lots of battles, primarily Viking battles, and some of it's World War II, just battles in different eras. So it made a lot of sense. But then going past that, my book goes into my series in the future books goes into much more psychological and drama and things of that nature. So not as much action, but I still kept it present tense because I still want you to feel like you're experiencing as it happens and not reading about it after it happened. So that was my approach to it.
Do you ever do anything in like first person, or like do you pretty much stick to third person?
No, it stayed third person. Now there is a lot of dialogue, that gets you into the mind of the characters. I write a lot of dialogue in the books, so all of the characters speak a lot and they share their thoughts through the dialogue. That way, I'm not really telling you what they're thinking; you're hearing it from their own mouths.
You're
So,
hearing their personality, yeah.
right, yeah, to
No,
get their
I
personality
remember
traits.
like back in the day, first person was looked down on. It's like, now a lot of people use it, but I figure it's kind of like the shaky cam, movies, but for writing. So like
Yeah,
it
no,
could
that's a
be
good
good, it
analogy.
could be
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah, exactly. It makes you feel like you're there at the moment. It's not rehearsed or not recounted. It's in the
Right.
moment.
It's
And now,
probably harder for like the longer the work is, so the more you kind of need it to be third person because you don't want to be stuck in one person's head for the entire thing for like 300 pages.
right, right. Yeah, because I have that's a fair point too. With my series, there's so many characters. You have to see the other perspectives, and the way to do that is through third person and their dialogue, right? So if it stays in first person, now you've got to explain what you think that other person's saying or thinking. So that it becomes when you have a lot of characters, that becomes
Well, there was
overwhelming,
one
really.
person I was talking to, and it's kind of an interesting approach, but it's like they do it in first person, but it's a different first person for each character. So you'll have a bunch of chapters. I haven't read his work, personally, so I'm not sure how he pulled it off, but I can imagine unless you pulled that off very smoothly, it can be very confusing.
Yeah, you would really have to be on your game to make that clear, and I think I'll stick with mine.
All right, so what do you have out now? You said you have several books, right?
Yeah, they're all in the same series so far. It's outside the Valspar series. Books 1 through 5 have already been released. The first book was Runes of the Docker's Daughter. Runes of Renewal is the second. Runes of Destiny is the third. Rune of Revenge is the fourth, and Runes of Whispers is the fifth. Now, the first three books are what I consider the meat of the story. It's focused on Mariel, the main protagonist. It's focused on her struggles with her dark power and her destiny to stop the dark from overrunning the living world and all the battles associated with that. And there's some time travel involved. I won't give a lot away for anybody who hasn't read it, but she does die a few times and come back, and it's over a 1,200-year span. So from the 820s up to World War II. Now, once she completes her destiny and completes her victory and just defeats the dark and the world is saved for another period of time, the future books go back and plug in all the gaps of all the other people that were involved. It wasn't just Mariel. She wasn't just a warrior that fought on her own. She had hundreds of people that had parts to play to help her. All of this stuff is connected. So something that will have happened in book 7 relates back to books 2 and 3. I mean, it's all interconnected. But the way I tried to dole it out, the heavy actions meat of the stories in books 1 through 3, and then after that is where all the subtle details come in, and all the other characters and all the other surprising connections that you didn't see coming until you start reading it then you realize, oh my, okay, that's how that happened. That guy did this. It's all
Is it the sort
interconnected.
of thing where you have to read the other books to get a little bit more backstory, or are they essential for understanding the plot?
No, I think if you read 1 through 3 and stop there, it's a complete story. I mean, it makes sense. But if you want the good details, meet more interesting characters, and get more wow moments with other events that you didn't even know happened until you read the future books, that's what the future books are for.
Would you need like could you read book two and you would need book one to understand book two, or would it
Yeah,
be a standalone?
yeah, they're not that's a complicated answer too, but I would say 1 through 3 certainly you have to read them in order. It's definitely
Okay.
three because three picks up right where two left off. So it would make no sense if you just started reading three.
Right, right.
Four is, in fact, a lot of the reviews say I love this standalone, but now I want to go back and read the others. So that it can be read by itself. It focuses on a new not a new character, but it focuses on a supporting character that has her own story to tell. And her name's Ingrid Stonesplitter. She's also a Viking female warrior that was Mariel's friend and ally. And it focuses on her story and her parts in all this that she had to accomplish for this final ending to happen. Uh, Five, you need to read four for sure. Yeah, read them all. Start at one, go to the final book will be eight, book eight. So yeah, read start at one and go to eight, and it'll all make sense.
Okay. Um, are these available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles? You're like,
uh, oh,
how
Amazon,
could
yeah.
people best get them?
Yeah, Amazon would be the best place to go. It's I'm self-published, I tried doing the traditional route and I realized quickly that I will spend the rest of my life trying to make that happen. So I decided to self-publish. Um, if you go to my
Well, I
webs,
know a lot of people that have done both. I've done both, and when you publish through quote traditional publisher, you like I'm not gonna say they lie to you, but they play a lot of games, so it's kind of hard to get
yeah,
paid.
the way I look at it, and this isn't sour grapes or anything. I mean, I've done what I've done and I'm happy with how I did it, but I did try the traditional route. It's almost unbelievably overly complicated for anybody to even get their book looked at. That's not even saying being published. That's just saying to get someone to even look at the book. And it becomes a full-time job to pitch your book to get people to look at your book.
Well,
Meaning the
that's the
publishers, not
thing.
the readers.
Traditional
Yeah.
publishers don't do the media for you unless you're like Stephen King or somebody huge. They
Yeah.
just like they do you out there and they're like, yeah, whatever you do, it helps us, but we're not doing anything.
Right. So it almost makes it made sense to me just to take the reins and do it myself. And I mean, I've hired people to help, of course, but I'm talking about not going a traditional route. I just think too many people get lost in the shuffle. Think of all the really good authors out there that haven't made it because of how complicated the system is.
Well, I know also people that like they started self-publishing stuff and they got to a point where they got picked up by a traditional publisher, but like they had enough time in the game that they could kind of like say, yeah, these are the rules. This is what I want. They could like write basically write their own contract.
Right.
All right, man. So do you have a website people can look at, like to contact you, like maybe get a signed book? Do you have any like special treats, like perks available?
Not yet. But you can go to thalspar.com. It's THALSPARR.com. And that's kind of the nerve center for the series. It shows you where you can buy them. It's got extra little stuff, little video clips I've made to kind of, boost a little bit of the awareness of the series and things like that. The marketer that I've hired, she does do promotions on them through Amazon on occasion. I'm not sure what's running right now, to be honest with you. I think she said July was going to start a promotion for book 3. So Runes of Destiny will be half price, I think. Things like that. But if you just check back every so often, you'll see what's going on.
Okay, awesome. And I guess everything that's going on, like with special marketing events and stuff like that, is going to be on your website.
Yeah, it'll bring you to links to find them. Yeah, yes, it will.
Do you attend any conventions?
I haven't yet because I just don't really have time to be honest. I got a little farm here I try to keep up, and I have a full-time job managing a plant, industrial plant nearby, so I it's hard for me to get away. But one day I would
One
like to
day.
start hitting some of them. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, man. So, do you? I don't want to keep you here all day, but do you have anything else you want to throw out to the surface sphere?
No, just I hope
And maybe like any recommendations? Like, hey, man, if you like this, you'll probably like my stuff.
I've had this asked before, and I think this might be the way to go. I've heard people ask, "What is if you had to say it's a mix of things? What is it?" That's I always kind of answer: imagine Game of Thrones and Vikings, the TV show, mixed together with a little bit of Lord of the Rings thrown in,
Okay.
and it's kind of like that.
Okay, awesome. So, give it a shout out to your website again.
It's Thalspar, THALSPARR.com, and that's where you can find whatever you're looking for with the series.
Okay, and do you have something coming up, pretty soon?
Book 6, Rune of Spirits, will be out in September. Yeah, September. I'm not sure on the date yet. I gotta get with the lady launching it and find out. But it's September will be the sixth book that introduces a new character called Josephine Peel. I mentioned earlier a lot of the characters are quote unquote good guys, but very dark. She is the epitome of that. She's a very dark character, but she also ends up serving a very important part in saving the world from the dark. So it'll be
Well, I
interesting.
think complex characters are way more interesting than like Superman.
Oh,
But you know,
definitely her. Yeah, she's
it's
very dark, but ends up serving the world can't be saved without her. I'll leave it at
true,
that.
it's true. And even the darkest characters can do great stuff, like John
Absolutely.
Wick.
Yeah, yep. In fact, that's kind of a theme in the book. It's mentioned before that dark, dark people do good things and light people do bad things.
Right.
It's human nature. It's what it is.
I saw a great meme. It says, um, good fences make good neighbors. Bad neighbors make good fences, and it has like Vlad the Impaler with the bunch of people. But all right,
Yeah.
man. So thank you for doing this. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, man. I thank you very much for having me. It was fun. Appreciated it.